Hello, everybody. Welcome to a really amazing talk that we have today, the value of NFTs, digital collectibles, and other exciting use cases. My name is Jacob Smith. I'm the community director for Altimetric Collider, based here in Detroit. I'm joined by my right hand, Ryan Robinson, who may or may not be near my right hand on your screen. Not really sure how that works exactly. We are, the Collider is the premier hub for digital business, bringing together the brightest technology minds across different disciplines and sectors and geographies to share techniques for driving growth and profitability without disrupting existing business practice. So we're all about highlighting exciting technology and how that can enhance business and all that good stuff. So very excited to be chatting about this topic here today because NFTs are top of mind for a lot of different people, and I'm personally just very curious how what the different types of use cases can be. We're joined by some really knowledgeable guests. So our moderator for this evening is Nate Talbot from the Detroit Blockchain Center. We're also joined by Adam Zientarski from EOS Detroit, Rob Consdorf, and Marseille Machette from Facings. Without further ado, we're going to kick it off. I'm going to drop a few links into the chat just so that you can connect with us either on YouTube or via our blog, where we'll be posting a recording and a write-up, a recap from this event after the fact. So be sure to subscribe and connect with us for more exciting stuff like this. And without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to Nate Talbot to kick it off and remind everybody to please drop questions in the chat as we go, and we will do our best to work those in as quickly as possible. So take it away, Nate.
All right. Thank you much, Jacob. And hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Just to reiterate, I'm Nate Talbot from Detroit Blockchain Center. We're a Michigan nonprofit focused on education, both with digital literacy and financial literacy, around blockchain and digital distributed ledger technologies. And our panel, I'm really honored to be with our panel today with Adam, Rob, and Marseille. Adam is from EOS Detroit. Rob and Marseille are from Facings. Facings is I'll let them describe Facings because they do it much better, but they are rocking the world of NFTs, internationally, but they're located locally here in Detroit. So they do us proud every day. So I'll give you a couple minutes. Let's start with Adam. You want to kick it off with a brief introduction about yourself and EOS Detroit?
Yeah, definitely. So I recognize a few names in there, so I'll keep this brief, but I'm the COO and one of the co-founders of EOS Detroit. We're a Detroit-based blockchain infrastructure provider and application development team. We're also dabbling into incubating other startups as well, which Rob used to be in EOS Detroit as the CEO, and he's one of the original co-founders as well. But we actually spun Facings out at EOS Detroit and provided them with a seed round of capital. So we're also kind of getting into that space as well. I come from a financial media background. I worked at Benzinga before, for those of you Detroiters here that are familiar with them. And I'm really interested in looking at the use cases for NFTs that are outside of digital collectibles. We're going to talk a lot about digital collectibles, but I find more of my passion and see, kind of the real long-term capabilities of NFTs actually being more enterprise-based as well too. So.
Okay, great, thanks. And let's jump over to Marseille. You want to introduce yourself? You're on mute if you're.
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Marseille. I work with Rob over at Facings. I'm one of the executive assistants. A little bit about my background. I actually also worked with Adam Z at Benzinga. So with Facings, I've been able to kind of merge the two of my worlds, which is luxury retail, which I did for about 15 years or so, and then finally jumped into my true passion of the like technology and financial space. So at Facings, I'm able to bridge the gap between both by working with brands and also working with that digital technology by way of NFTs.
Awesome. And Adam, Rob, tell us about yourself and go into Facings.
Sure. So, hi all, I'm Rob Consdorf. As Adam said, we spun Facings out of EOS Detroit to focus on building a product platform. Specifically, what we're doing is making NFT publishing accessible to everyone and giving folks, whether they're representing a big brand or they're an individual artist, the tools they need in order to tap into NFTs as a part of their own strategy. So really, we're building out the picks and shovels for the NFT industry. In my background's in software engineering mostly, but I've been a blockchain nerd for about 10 years now, and learned a lot about the business side of things on the fly, starting EOS Detroit over here with Adam and others. So thanks a lot for coming out, and looking forward to diving deeper.
Awesome. And we keep throwing around the word NFT. And before we get into it, just so everybody knows, please, as Jacob said, drop any questions in the chat box. We'll try to fit them in during the talk, and then we'll have some time at the end for Q&A so we can answer all your questions. But let's stick with you for a second, Rob. We keep tossing around NFT. Can you sort of explain just what is it?
Yeah, sure. What is an NFT? Other than another three-letter acronym. It's really just a piece of digital property. It's a new way to represent digital property. And with that, it basically is sort of like a blank canvas that you can do a lot with. It's a new primitive or tool that you can use as building blocks to accomplish something greater that you're trying to accomplish. And it really fits into the story arc of the internet evolving into a metaverse, which is where the physical and digital worlds start to sort of cross over, and there's hybrid experiences that are both physical and digital in nature. Well, in order for these metaverses to become, or this idea to become ubiquitous, there's going to need to be some way to represent ownership and, scarcity within that system. And NFTs are basically the perfect fit for that. So right now we see them being used a lot for art and, organizing communities, sort of people creating their own clubs, if you will, where they get together, they love this NFT set, maybe they figure out how to take it to the next level, because it really is sort of something that arose out of open source movements, just like blockchains did. So there's this ethos of sort of ground up creation and grassroots and organic creation. But what we're really seeing NFTs go to, so we've seen this art renaissance over the last year, and things are really shifting into games now, specifically play to earn games. So there's that's looking to be the next wave and sort of frontier of the evolution of NFTs into mainstream culture. And they make really good game items because game items are digital, and these digital items can have more of a provable authenticity and scarcity. So it gives game designers a new tool or lever to incorporate into how they create their games. And I'll stop there. I've been rambling for a minute.
All right, we're here to listen to the rambles. So as collectible, I think that's how people know them the most. Marseille, can you sort of let us know sort of how are they used as collectibles? Why is an NFT just not what's the difference between that and just a picture I can find on the internet? Like, how do you guys use them at Facings? What is it?
Well, I would say the most important thing would be the blockchain, is having true ownership of this particular collectible. It's you've got a one of, let's say, there's been 10 minted and you've got a one of, you've got card number 3. So not only just saying like, oh, I own it, I have card 3, but truly being able to prove that you have ownership of that. So if it's something that you'd like to put on a secondary market and potentially sell to make profit, whether it be today or 5 years from now, you can truly show why you have why you're marketing it at maybe 5x times what someone else who has like a card number 9 is, because you have that third edition of that number 3 of that set of 10. So it's really being able to like prove, your true ownership of it. So it's a bit more complex than just copying and pasting, because we know we can screenshot anything on a phone and say like, oh, I have this, I'll just send it to you. But it's showing that true ownership of it. And Adam kind of mentioned it in the beginning of the chat, where he mentioned that it's a bit more, NFTs is a bit more than just art and collectibles. We can do a lot more with that technology and showing like that ownership on the blockchain with other entities like real estate and so on and so forth. But I know the guys are going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's my 2 cents.
All right. And Adam, you were saying like you're not really excited. I mean, you're obviously excited because you work in the space about what's happening now, but you're more excited about what's to come. And before we get into what's to come though, what is really happening with NFTs? Like what are people doing? What's happening?
Yeah, so I mean, I would really say the whole NFT world got extremely popular. Of course, there's things like CryptoKitties back in like 2017. So NFTs have been around for a while, but they've become more mainstream lately because, well, one, you have investors like Mark Cuban and Gary Vee really going deep into this space. Mark Cuban, they're accepting cryptocurrency at the Dallas Mavericks games. They're offering digital items to their fans as an experience. So right now it's very experiential. As Rob mentioned, there's a lot of gaming. One of them is called Blankos actually. And so Blankos is using NFTs as skins for the actual characters, but those skins are then actually tradable in the real world, or will be shortly soon. But this has kind of been, I feel like a culmination of almost 20 years of stuff going on, because if you look at like back when World of Warcraft was extremely popular, there's people, buying and selling accounts of characters, buying and selling digital gold, things like that. NFTs really have enabled people to do that like legally now, basically in a way where it's not controlled in a walled garden environment. Where Blizzard, the company that created World of Warcraft, is saying whether or not you can trade your armor piece to somebody, right? So that's why you're seeing this stuff get really popular. And I think Second Life was kind of the first one to do that and really let people trade stuff, but they were really an exception. So I would say that's mostly what you have going on now, is a lot of collectible trading and a lot of just gaming skin type of, or gaming digital asset type of use cases going on right now primarily.
Okay. I'm gonna sort of throw it back to you, Adam or Rob, either one of you. I sort of get it. That's what people are using it for, but like, I don't really get the value prop, right? Why is it worth something? Why are people out here spending any money really? But I mean, I'm seeing reports people spending millions of dollars on these things. What's the value proposition?
Well, I'll say Marseille said the word earlier, like the psychology of buying $1 million NFT in my mind is it's a status item. It's a luxury good. People want to buy that $1 million Bored Ape yacht club NFT because they want to be a part of the club. And they want to rep it on their profile on Twitter or wherever else they've got that and that art displayed. So I think that's sort of the consumer psychology behind some of those really expensive NFTs. Also, for specific ones, they're considered a piece of history. Like that's why CryptoPunks are so big. You know, it's the first generative one-of-one profile pic or PFP project, which is really popular on Ethereum right now. And you know, they're valued very highly, I think, due to that historical significance. However, we're not really focused on that market right now at Facings at all. Like the market's doing fine, the fine art and hundreds of thousands of dollar NFTs are doing fine. We're more interested in creating a $5 or a $10 NFT experience and really opening up the ubiquity of the medium to more folks. So I would just say, you know, I think that fine art stuff, some of it is very speculative. I'd be very careful about getting into that. Not that I'm giving any financial advice, but you know, be careful to check your emotions. If you're thinking about dropping thousands and thousands on an NFT, you should really know the fundamentals of that asset or that commodity. You should really, you know, the way my personal philosophy is I buy NFTs that I want to support the creator or that I just like right now. Or like if, you know, if it's a game, maybe I think that game's going to do well. So that's more of an investment mindset. But I think it's more about making it a fun experience right now while it's early days and while the technology is sussing itself out. And we'll be able to build up into more interesting and complicated use cases over time as people learn sort of best practices for these things. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with the $1 million NFTs. We're more interested in creating a $5 NFT experience or up to 50 maybe.
Yeah, and just to add to that too, there are certain releases where you can actually redeem the NFTs for physical goods. So we actually recently, or Facings recently did one with Tommy Hearns, the famous legendary Detroit boxer, where you know, there's a chance to actually potentially meet Tommy Hearns if you hold certain NFTs. Also, there's memorabilia, and we're not the first people to do that. There's been plenty of other celebrities that have done similar things, but you know, it is another tool and kind of, I would say, a marketer's playbook to interact with your user base or your fan base or what have you, right? So
yeah, it's all about engagement and fun right now, in my opinion. We do see a lot of games issuing tokens and giving out tokens for ownership of NFTs. You know, that's kind of a risky behavior, I think, unless you have like a bulletproof legal case for your token and you've already had that reviewed. So we do see a lot of like the Wild West stuff you generally see in crypto of, you know, potential securitization of assets in an unregulated way and things like that. It's also something to look out for and really analyze. You know, is this NFT being marketed to me in a way that's promising me future value? Well, I might want to like stop and think about it for a second before I buy it. But anyways, you know, there's a lot of riches being made, that's for sure. But, you know, we see the overall kind of broad strokes of regulators getting more involved with our industry. And, you know, we at Facings are just trying to move really cautiously in that sort of environment and not just jumping to those sorts of mechanisms.
All right. So as the last sort of what is an NFT thing, just for clarity, if I go and get, you know, JPEG NFTs or the images or the profile pic NFTs, as you said, are sort of the rage right now. And Jacob had just posted in there, you know, Jack Dorsey sold his first tweet for his as an NFT for like $3 million. So let's say I was the lucky schleb who now has spent $3 million on that tweet. Do I own the tweet? Is that what this means? Is it my tweet? What did I just buy?
Good question, Nate. Do you guys want me to take this one?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So no, no, you don't. What you own is a piece of work that was created by Jack Dorsey that is, you know, he intended to sell as a piece of art, I presume. You know, if you buy a piece of art that's a painting of a building, you don't inherently own the building for owning the piece of art. And, you know, we haven't really tested whether or not legalese in NFTs hold up, but I think that's really where you want to look as far as granting specific rights go. Like, I don't think you're out of question asking if you own the content or have the rights to the content. But I do think those rights have to be explicitly granted through the NFT. It's not an implicit grant. So you need some sort of legal snippet either injected into the NFT or referenced in the NFT. And yeah, I think when you start to combine like putting legalese in NFTs with all of the flexibility of them, you can think of a lot of really cool situations. But yeah, it's not an implicit grant of rights. It's a digital piece of property that you own. And those rights have to be, I think, explicitly bound to it. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know that any of this stuff has actually been tried in common laws or in court. So I don't know, you know, I think it remains to be seen if NFTs with legalese in them become binding somehow, or how that needs to be structured in order for it to be enforceable with respect to the existing legal system.
Yeah.
Hey, Nate, before you move forward, there's a question in the chat from Pradeep. So can the same digital image be in multiple platforms, Ethereum, Solana, et cetera?
Adam, you want to try to take that?
Yeah, so I mean, hypothetically, anybody could go on and let's say I painted a picture of Rob and made it an NFT on the Wax blockchain. Somebody could copy that and let's say put it on the Ethereum blockchain as an NFT, right? It is just a file. I think, and this is actually a really good segue because I was going to bring it up anyways. I think the important thing is the authenticity. So really what you want to do when you're looking and thinking about purchasing an NFT is like on Atomic Hub, which is the marketplace for Wax, they actually do manual verification of the publisher. So you're going to want to do your own research. Yes, somebody can take it and put it on another blockchain. This is also probably where there's going to be some legal questions, right? Because that technically is stealing. And then how do you get rid of it since somebody put it on another blockchain, right? So some of these things haven't been tested, but what I will say is really you want to look at that authenticity. And then here in the future, what we're going to actually see is as inter-blockchain communication technology gets better, where you can actually have a bridge, like let's say I have a Wax token, I can actually transfer it to the Ethereum blockchain and actually maintain that history of it being the original one. I think you're going to see kind of a lot less of those problems.
Okay, so I meant on because that's what you guys are talking about, and you know, I'm used to Ethereum, and you were talking about $5 transactions in Ethereum. I think the cheapest thing you can do these days is a couple $100, even for a $5 transaction. Can you explain, Marseille, how that works? Why is it $5? Is that a Wax thing? What is Wax? Can you, Marseille? How about you? Or did we lose you? I can't see you now.
I think we lost her.
I think we lost her too. So while we wait, then let's kick it back to you guys. Then what's
Yeah,
what's
Sure.
the $5
I was going to
transaction?
add to Adam's point, actually, in the question from the chat.
Uh-huh.
Our philosophy at Facings is to not recommend publishers to duplicate their NFT content on multiple blockchains because it dilutes the original work, in my opinion. So, you know, maybe a publisher's like, well, I've got this really great set of art and I just want to push it out everywhere. Well, you might upset one community or your previous buyers who bought these NFTs thinking it'd be like a exclusive run. So if you were going to mint in multiple places, you should make that really explicit and known up front so that the buyers kind of know what they're getting into. But yeah, in general, we just don't recommend doing that.
Okay. So
I can answer the question about the fees though, if you want.
Mhm.
So, you know, on Wax and EOS.io chains in general, it's a different consensus model, which if you've ever heard of proof of work, proof of stake, that sort of thing, you know, proof of work, which is what Ethereum's currently on, it relies on high energy costs of running those miners. The model also is fee-based. So based on the usage of the network, there's those gas fees is what they're called, and those fluctuate. And right now, I mean, they're in the hundreds of dollars, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But when the chain's heavily utilized, those fees tend to go up. Ethereum is trying to move to a proof of stake model. I don't know if anybody actually knows when that's going to come out, but Wax itself is on a delegated proof of stake model, which is similar to proof of stake, but there's actually less validators, and so that makes it more efficient, and then you're also using your tokens to stake for resources, so you lock them up. And so really the cost there is the opportunity cost of locking the token up. So that means that we can charge less for NFTs.
Yeah, and adding on to that, so the way that Facings designs our NFT experiences is we want to be able to provide, you know, an NFT experience to folks that don't have tons of blockchain experience. So by using Wax, we leverage the Wax Cloud Wallet, which anyone can sign up for, like a normal web account on any service, and that's actually a blockchain account. But on the flip side, the staking of resources that Adam brought up, we actually stake resources on behalf of our customers. So you don't have to come into the Wax, you know, if you came in to use a Facings NFT product, we're going to cover all of your resources on your behalf because it just involves us having Wax locked up. So it's more efficient for our business than having, you know, that's why Ethereum projects ask everyone to pay their own gas fee, because there'd be no way that project could afford, you know, $200,000 in gas to mint all of the assets that it has. So you see this sort of flip inverted on its head in Ethereum, and like you sign up for the chance to mint a profile pic NFT, which is the latest sort of hotness, but you have to front the gas fee. In our model, we cover the blockchain resources on behalf of our users, so we can open up the experience to more people.
All right. So we've covered sort of the picture on a blockchain NFT image. You've talked a little about gaming. I have one question about a gaming NFT, which is, if I'm a game developer, what's the benefit to me to have any piece of my game being an NFT? Why would I do that?
It's a great question. Well, you know, traditional in-game economies, which, you know, we can observe MMO games like World of Warcraft as an example, and the many others. they have, dynamic, valuable economies in them, even when the user base doesn't have the assurances of NFTs, which goes back to Marseille's point earlier of really owning this thing. So, the terms of service in a game like World of Warcraft could say, well, we can just ban your account at any time. Like, even if you paid for the items or the account, they can just sort of null your account out. And the idea with NFT properties in games, whether that's your like items your character equips, or your skins, or things you use to make things in the game, you can make a really rich experience. You can build scarcity into that economy, which is something that most MMO games haven't been ever done, where there's like really only one of these things. Maybe sometimes they have, but and it basically allows the user base to play to earn, which is the moniker, which I think as we see that model become more successful, Axie Infinity being the unicorn in that space right now. And as Adam mentioned, Blankos being another like AAA game being pushed by Mythical Games, who actually are comprised of industry veterans in the game industry. We're going to see player bases demanding these types of features, I think, before too long, because it's a huge benefit for people who spend, where gaming is a lifestyle. Like if you're playing 100 days out of the year, you're actually logged in. That's, it's part of your lifestyle. And if you could have value stored in that system and then be able to tap into that later, maybe as you go some other direction in your life, that's really a powerful concept. It's a new way for people. It's a new economic opportunity where there wasn't really one before.
Yeah, and I mean, there's even scenarios too, right? Like I had a buddy who played League of Legends, and he had a 10-year-old account where he probably spent, $500 to $1,000 on skins and all this stuff. And then he got banned for no reason. And then he loses all that value because somebody else on the internet he was playing with didn't like something he said. It wasn't nefarious or anything, but it was just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to report you. And then he gets banned, basically. It's arbitrary. Yeah. So then he loses all that value.
This all made a ton of sense to me, because when I was like 13, 14, I was a nerd. I got EverQuest. I was playing EverQuest all the time. Like I was the kid who had 100 days like logged in after a year. So like a third of my life that year. And I sold accounts and sold items in the game and made like a couple $1,000 when I was like 15-ish. And it totally blew my mind. But when I saw the NFT wave coming, I'm like, oh, I understand that, because I participated in sort of an early version of it. And you can see the middle ground being Counter-Strike Go. Like CSGO had a huge skins market. And I don't know how active it is anymore, but that was just over like, I don't know, probably 6 to 10 years ago, that was a big thing. So it's just an evolution of that. Now, one last point, Nate, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely game publishers that want nothing to do with this because they currently have all of the control. So like a game like Fortnite that's minting, that's worth billions and billions, they probably don't see a huge reason to change their business model just because of this new technology. So I think some of those bigger players may actually be some of the later ones to enter, and it'll probably be at the direction of their user bases demanding it, because right now their business model is working just fine for them.
Yeah.
Okay. You had mentioned Axie Infinity, and I think this sort of leads into one of the questions that are in the chat. I know in Axie Infinity, a user actually came up with the concept because of how Web3 sort of works, where they could take their NFT game characters, and they started leasing them out to people who couldn't afford their own character to play. And so that's an interesting concept. And the question in the chat is like, is there a way to do fractional ownership of NFTs? Can you take one of these things and own a piece of it?
Yeah, that's definitely a great question. It's something that I've seen people exploring in different ways. You know, I think it's really, we're going to really have to see a game that warrants that. Like, it's so popular and everybody just wants to play it. And, you know, I don't think there's been a NFT leasing market to date that's been very active, but we know it's super, super early now. So I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see that. And I definitely think it's a valid use case. You said something though, Nate, that caught my ear, and it was people can't afford to play the game. And that's something I think that game developers are really going to have to keep in mind. How do you keep the game balanced and accessible while also having, you know, perhaps still some ultra rare stuff in the game that's an NFT? Because if you price out the majority of people who would want to play your game, then, you know, you've got a different kind of problem. So I think it's important to think about that balance, and I don't think it's a trivial challenge to solve either in game design.
Well, when you say, when we start talking about fractional NFTs, one thing that comes to mind, and I think one of you guys mentioned a little bit earlier, maybe something like real estate. So I know, Adam, you said you were interested in other things beyond just the JPEG thing. I know people are talking about like real estate as NFTs, a lot of different things. Can you explain sort of how an NFT can be used outside of these more entertainment sort of focused areas?
Yeah, I can go and do a couple, and I mean, we'll start with real estate, and I'll let Marseille chime in too, because I see that she's back, because I
welcome
think
back.
she brought it up first. But yeah, so I mean, really, like, real estate's a great use case because you could hypothetically create NFT deeds, right, or auto deeds or things like that. So really, as an extension of, okay, we're looking at things like artwork that people perceive as valuable, anything that's a high value item, and especially something like a house that, you know, it doesn't move generally. I mean, I guess there's some small cases of where a house might move, but you can actually store data related to the house. So if you go online and, like, let's say you look up a house using the Detroit Open Database, and you look up all the information about the house, you can store all that in an NFT. We store a lot of the auxiliary information in the facings NFTs, like who the artist is, who the special effects designer is, and it's all in a table basically, right? So you can store that immutable data or data that you can't change in the NFT. And then there's also cases where you can have mutable data where it actually changes too, and you can go and update it on certain blockchains as well. So, you know, you could do something where you have a deed to a house, and then you update last sale prices on it and things like that. And actually hold it in your own blockchain wallet and account. You don't have to keep it at the bank anymore. You can self-custodian that, right? So it can be really powerful for things like that. You can store data related to potentially just the fact that certain documents were signed, so you can actually hash information, and all that is just a reference, but it's saying, okay, at some point this action happened. We're still storing some of that data off the blockchain because it's personal information or whatever, but we're at least, somebody's at least acknowledging that this paperwork was submitted, whether it be the bank or what have you. You can also look at things like even degrees, or we're actually here in the Grand Circus office. You could be your boot camp graduation certificate, the fact that you went through this class or you got your business degree or your computer science degree from a university. You can actually have that and hold that as a digital good and show people, and nobody can ever take that away from you, right? They might be able to maybe update some information on how it's designed, depending on how the actual NFT schema is, right? But they'll never actually be able to take that away from you.
Gotcha. Marseille?
And I'll chime in a bit. So on the real estate front, I am a native Detroiter. And one of the things that kind of caught my eye or caught my ear, I was listening to a podcast maybe a week or so ago, is that how you could potentially use NFTs by way of, if a community, let's say there's a house on a block, you've been living on this block for a while, and one of the homeowners loses their home. So a lot of times property value goes down when you have renters coming in, or you have, people just not really taking care of like their property. So if there were a way for all of the owners of, or the homeowners on that block to, one, find out that the house was even going into foreclosure before it's completely gone, they could have pulled money together and either helped out the neighbor or decided, you know what, we want to make sure that we keep this property in our network or in our family of people that we know, and they could come together, pool money, and then they could take over ownership of the house by way of buying it and bringing in someone that they know, again, that they know it's gonna keep up the property, not turn the, to keep up the property and keep up the sense of community in that property. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of that happen. My parents live on the east side of Detroit, and the block has completely changed, from it being all homeowners to renters. Renters are not bad. I am a renter, it's fine. But a lot of newer renters don't have that sense of ownership. They don't have that sense of pride because it's quote unquote not their house. So I found that very interesting of using NFTs by way of governing people from a neighborhood to potentially save some of these homes that went into foreclosure.
Well, and just to add to that too, I mean, even in the city of Detroit here, and we all know, how governments are with keeping track of records properly, especially in Detroit. There's tons of cases that I've heard of around out in the neighborhoods where you have people that have lived there for 40 years, and then it turns out that they don't actually have the deed to their house, and then somebody comes and buys it at auction or whatever, because the county takes it back or however all that works, right? So, this is a way to really insulate communities from predatory, real estate actions and predatory actions in general against property.
That's very interesting and intriguing. One thing sort of jumps in my head though about that, especially with like the neighbors, protecting the value of the neighborhood. Could that be inverted in a way we might not want? Neighbors are buying up property, so people they don't want in the neighborhood can't move in. Is that something that could materialize, or is there a way to prevent that?
I'm sure it could, Nate. I think the point I got from Marseille's concept was that the accessibility to the information and transparency of it could empower those neighbors. And, rather than having to dig through public records, I mean, I don't know, it's not always easy to understand or know where to look for public records. You got to do some legwork there. If that stuff was updated and digitized, perhaps through an NFT based system, then surely someone who has had some other agenda could see this and access the same information and, perhaps do something nefarious with it. But I think it's good to make public data more transparent and open. And that's really one of the big promises of blockchain tech. And this is just another flavor of how it can be used.
Nice. We're coming up. Oh, go ahead. No.
Sorry, I want to interject one more thing. Sorry, I got cut off before. But my last point that really speaks true to me is generational wealth. So a lot of times, again, speaking of documentation and us not having the transparency to finding out where those deeds are, who even owns the home. So often in a lot of families, particularly minority families, you will go by the word of the elder. The elder says like, oh, the house is paid off or da 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 da, all this information. Then that person passes on, and the now inherit, or can't think of the actual term. Anyway, the person that inherits it, that family member that inherits, has to take over the bills, things for the family, has no idea where to look. My grandmother recently passed away, and thank gosh I came home and I found out like where the deed was, whose name it was in, and I was kind of able to clean up like that admin documentation work, because we would have been screwed when she did actually pass away, because there were dead people on the deed. There were just all this extra clutter that they're older. They just assume that the county has taken care of all of their proper record keeping is what I'm trying to say. So it's having it on a blockchain, it's there, it's clean, we can search it, you know what's going on, and that way families don't lose their home by just not having a piece of paper.
It's an awesome point. And I know people have been taken advantage of because of that historically. So that's an awesome point. We're coming up on 6:20, and I want to leave time for, sort of open Q&A, and there's a couple sort of flooding in to the chat. So to segue on, since we're on the real estate, our gracious host Jacob asks, where would the link to an NFT exist in sort of that use case? Maybe that you were talking about, Marseille. Is that like on a QR code on the deed? Is there like some kind of web portal people access? It's about accessibility. How would they access? How do people access the blockchain to find this information?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'll be 100% honest, but I'm assuming that we could create, if this doesn't already exist, just top of mind, creating a central location, a database, so that the public could simply just keyword search it. Like, it doesn't have to be as complex as it has been, the process has been over time.
Gotcha. Any input, Adam or Rob?
Yeah, it would be a front end. I mean, you already see examples of this. Like if anybody here has ever used a block explorer, like Etherscan, or on EOS, it's like blocks.io. There's already ways to search the blockchain. So, and I mean, even if you're looking at like the marketplaces where you buy NFTs, right? Like they're just pulling data from the blockchain. So really it's on somebody to build that, right?
Okay.
And create a business model out of it, hopefully.
Right.
You made me think of something else, Nate.
Yeah.
Where is this stored? So NFTs often have media in them, like images, but the images aren't typically stored they're not stored in the blockchain data themselves because they're too big usually. So it'd be really, really expensive, and blockchains aren't designed to store media like images or GIFs or MP4 videos. So there is another layer that a lot of NFT standards leverage called IPFS, or Interplanetary File System. And then what you can do with IPFS is you put your media up there. It's got its own layer of decentralization and its own model, but it's designed for content. And then the NFTs can just have a reference to the IPFS in them. So rather than storing a meg of image data on the blockchain, you just store a little basically address to that image in your NFT. I just wanted to make that sort of known since we didn't touch on IPFS yet.
You actually sort of brushed on, this is sort of going out of order, so reverse back, but there's actually a question in there about if you guys have comments on any of the recent rug pulls on some of the NFT minting sites. And I think that sort of ties into what you were just talking about, Rob. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't followed all the rug pulls, but I did see a friend get scammed literally yesterday because he was trying to bid on something, or go to one of those minting sites and someone had made a fake URL that was missing one character and tricked them because it was a phishing site basically. So you do have to be super careful to double check your domains and really verify you're on the right site, even if it looks right when you're doing that crypto stuff. But I think that really underscores the point why it's important for founders in the space to be transparent themselves about their identities. I would be very suspicious of specific anonymous projects that are raising money. That's not to say that anonymity and privacy on the internet is bad, because I'm totally a supporter of that. And I know people that literally go by the letter M and they're amazing and nobody knows who they are in real life. But so there's like really cool people online you can meet that don't use their real name. But I mean, if you're gonna go ahead and basically raise millions of dollars through an alternative funding mechanism like selling NFTs, you should probably be willing to put your name on it, That's just my personal philosophy. So I wouldn't support projects, because I think the one that perhaps prompted the question, or I'm sure there's been a few, but just a couple days ago, I think it was earlier this week, someone ran off with like $2.7 million, rug pulled. So the site went down, like they just totally wiped all their socials and their Twitters and everything. And now that person's got probably 2.7 million in ETH on a beach somewhere. So I think it's just up to the people that are going to put money in to really be discerning.
Right. As Greg P in our chat says, always check the contract. That's why we have a blockchain.
Yeah.
So we have something we can always view. I want to circle back because we sort of glazed over one of the questions from Ed, which is, you guys talked about working on Wax for those reasons. This question is, why Wax and not EOS for the Facings platform? And do you have any thoughts on any other platforms like Tezos that has extremely low like bake fees and growing communities?
Yeah, great question, Ed. Thank you. So our vision at Facings is to be a blockchain agnostic publishing platform. We're building out our MVP of the platform against Wax right now, specifically because it solves some pain points that blockchains have in general of onboarding. However, I think that it's important for us to give the publishers choice. So the vision for Facings is to offer basically whatever platforms strategically make sense to support, i.e. they have a real NFT ecosystem. EOS will actually be a natural second blockchain for us to add, because we can take our existing tech on Wax, import it very easily to EOS. That's because they use the same smart contracting language. Now, when we talk about rolling out Ethereum campaigns or Tezos or Solana or Cardano or Avalanche or whatever your favorite NFT blockchain is, I think you'll see Facings supporting a lot more of that through 2022. But I can't comment beyond EOS and Ethereum right now, just because we want to focus on getting the core platform put together, getting a few core blockchain integrations, and then analyzing, what to prioritize next and add.
Okay. We're getting close. I wanted to tie up on one thing, and then if we have some extras and Collider wants to extend some, we can. But I want to give Marseille, you just dropped the link to Facings. You have a shiny new website, as she states. You also have a new drop coming up this week, I believe. Can you talk about that for a second, Marseille, so people can be familiar if they want to sort of check out for real what's happening and what you guys are doing? You're muted if you're talking to us. There we go. And then we're gone. And we're back.
All right. I said that you actually caught me off guard. I was getting ready to drop the site for Strange and Unusual. It's our latest NFT drop that we have coming out tomorrow. I'm dropping that right in the chat here.
Okay. And what is this?
All right, I'm gonna let Rob take it away.
Okay.
I've had my head on this all week and beyond. So Strange and Unusual is an oddities shop in Pennsylvania, and the owner, his name is Josh Balls. He is a collector of oddities, so they're anatomical objects, taxidermy, bones, like a lot of anatomical stuff and essentially preserved stuff in a lot of cases. So our chief creative officer, Lars, who's a career photographer, took pictures of Josh's collection, and we've turned them into NFTs with specific effects, some information about that oddity, like you can kind of think of it as almost like a curated like museum experience. We're calling it Exhibit A. And Josh is also a musician. He used to be in a band called Motionless in White. And he's been a wonderful partner for us. He's really taking, he's taking the launch as far as he can. He's out there teaching people about it, teaching people about NFTs to prepare them to perhaps join their first NFT collection. And it's been a pleasure to work with him and work on the set. It's a really unique set, and it's really super interesting, honestly. I was looking through the pieces earlier, sort of getting things ready for tomorrow, and I was blown away by the quality that the team pulled off. And that's not just to big up ourselves. Our creative team really does some mind-blowing stuff and continue to impress me every time. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun. There's a crafting element, so you can use specific NFTs in the set to make some other things. And there's also a redemption in it. So it's pretty cool. I think people are gonna like it.
Nice. You guys do some amazing things that blew me away. They had a pack where you open up the card pack like traditionally, and then all of a sudden the pack, the wrapper that the card pack, the digital wrapper, became its own NFT, and that became a collectible. So yeah, if you guys haven't already checked them out, go check out Facings. They're doing some really, really cool things with this, beyond the classic criticism of JPEG on a blockchain type thing.
Thank you, Nate. This is a pack drop, by the way, tomorrow. There's two types, and one has 8 curiosities in it. The other one has 16 curiosities. You do get to keep your wrapper. So that's one of the things that the sort of Facings touches that we like. Just sort of really thinking about the meta experience and how can we map some of the same sort of experiences from physical collecting into the NFT world as well.
Right.
So yeah, it's going to be a really fun one. If anyone's curious, feel free to ask us further on the Detroit Blockchainers Slack. Happy to answer any questions. Yeah, so looking forward to it. You can also purchase with credit cards, which is something we just rolled out last week in an effort to make things more accessible for folks that don't necessarily have cryptocurrency tokens. So it's kind of fun because we're seeing this as a way to onboard folks into NFTs and crypto that don't necessarily have the background yet and don't know how to operate in that world.
Okay. I don't want to keep running over Jacob and Ryan. There are a couple good things. I'm assuming you got somebody who's looking for some opportunity. I don't know if they can reach out to you guys on the Facings website if you guys are looking for any more devs or any other help.
Yeah, if you want to send your resume in, hit us at careers@facings.io. We have you can just send an email in. You know, if you know someone who's interested in publishing on the platform when it launches, we've got a form you can fill out on the website, and we'll contact you when that's closer to being ready. So that's essentially how you can get into our closed beta, which will be rolling out towards the end of the year or probably closer to January 2022.
Okay. So I'm going to turn it back to you, Jacob. We've just scratched the surface today. As Adam has stated a few times, there's so much more in NFTs. We did a previous talk about IDs on the blockchain. Those are NFTs. You know, there's a lot of things you can do in the NFT space that we can dig into and explore. I'm going to ask them one last question. Please take it away, Jacob. I just think it's a really great question. For someone that's new to NFTs, where would you suggest they continue their education? Where can they go so they can learn more and stay up to date?
That's a great question. I guess it depends on your learning style. I know some folks prefer to learn from YouTube videos. I personally am like in the Discords and the Telegram channels, like talking to NFT creators and that's more of a chat room. It's more chaotic and not structured learning. I know Adam over at EOS Detroit with Jerry and some others are working on rolling out an NFT workshop here locally in Detroit that is actually focused on going deeper and helping people understand how to mint their own NFTs and maybe design their own campaigns and just sort of overviewing that. Nate, you're part of that production too, so I'm not meaning to forget that either. So I think that's going to be a really good opportunity. Really though, I can't say I have a great one-stop shop website to send you to because it's sort of evolving so rapidly that maybe something published 6 to 8 months ago isn't as relevant anymore, but that's a good question. You know, there needs to be a really concise spot where you can just stop in and sort of get the download. So something to keep in mind. Thank you.
I also don't want to necessarily throw it out there because it's not our meetup, but I know Nate likes to attend meetups around Detroit and Metro Detroit, and he himself is also a great resource. I know he's taught Marseille a bunch as well. So hit him up afterwards as well too and learn about the blockchain center and you know, if there's demand, I'm sure we can put some other meetups together as well too to continue to teach about NFTs.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say it sounds like we need to do a meetup, Adam.
Yep. Yeah, reach out. Anybody here, please reach out to Detroit Blockchain Center. I see Jacob's put the link in there. This is what we do. We will help educate and we'll help find those resources. So you can contact us through the website and you know, we can get you going someplace. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Jacob or Ryan, whoever wants to take the reins.
Absolutely. And I was just going to say, whoever is interested, if you guys want to drop your contact information in the chat or whatever the best way is to reach you, social media or whatever the case may be. Lots of great links in the chat here, y'all. So we've got the Detroit Blockchainers Slack invite, definitely another good resource in terms of driving conversation around local blockchain efforts and questions and things. So you can connect with other smart people who are thinking about these things and all that good stuff. And Detroit Blockchain Center, everything we already mentioned. I just want to say thank you. So we've been talking about this program for a long time. It took a lot of different pieces to bring this together. Huge shout out to Nate for putting together the questions and also just bringing together the pieces. And for Adam, Rob, and Marseille, thank you so much, everybody, for coming on, sharing your insights, and for all the incredible work that you're doing. I think it's just amazing that for all the amount of support that's happening in the Detroit blockchain ecosystem. I'm sure there's folks tuning in from all over. So, this is a lot of exciting energy happening in Detroit and beyond. And we're so excited to have such an amazing ecosystem developing here. So with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. We definitely intend to keep this conversation alive. So look out for the follow-up. We've got we'll have a video as well as a recap of the event coming out as soon as possible. And yeah, we hope everybody has a great rest of your day, night, wherever you're tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks everybody. And thank you, Jacob and Ryan, for having us on. It was a pleasure. Really looking forward to continuing the conversation with you all.
These guys have been supporting us for years now, and we wouldn't be where we're at today if it wasn't for partners like Jacob and Ryan. So again, thank you to you too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I dropped the Facings Telegram chat invite in the chat as well, just so that's there as well.
Awesome. And we'll actually, for folks that are still here, we'll put together all these different links. Let's do that, Ryan, and include that in the follow-up.
Cool.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Look out for an email.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.